you are the expert on you and like what's best for you, not someone else just because they're older than you.
Yeah. Hello, welcome back to Sextras,
where we talk about sex and all the extras.
I'm Honey.
And I'm Maria.
And this week we're gonna talk about dating people who are older or younger than you.
Oh yeah.
Maria has a lot of opinions.
I have had a lot of opinions for a while.
You have, definitely.
And I have been expressing them, and now you finally coming to the right side of this argument.
Yeah, we were on different sides for a while, but you've convinced me.
Finally. And now I'm here to convince you all.
Yeah. Actually, when we first planned this episode, I feel like that's when I started being like, maybe she's right.
Yeah.
Let's see if we can convince some of you to agree with us. But I don't know, I still think I'm not entirely there.
Oh no, okay, I mean, we're being kind of vague. We haven't even said which one we're for or against, you know?
I mean...
But, I mean, I really am not even completely one way. It's just, like, my personal preference. And, like, I do think that there's exceptions. Like, with everything. Like, every situation is different. And, like, I can't speak for every single situation. But just as a general, like, opinion of it.
Yeah, I think it all started from your personal preferences, this opinion, and you being like, oh, everyone's like fucked up.
Yeah.
But then I guess also as we've gotten older, people dating people who are different ages seems more strange to us now. I mean, not that we're like so grown and like we're above it all, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, you start to like see it more. Like before, I feel like it's like you don't really know what's going on.
Yeah.
And like you're kind of just going along with it because you're a child. And,
you're a literal child and it's illegal.
But anyway,
we'll get into it.
Because we just had this very vague thing and I feel like we're really dragging it and we're being kind of annoying. But so let's start. So for the segment, we wanted to see if like you guys had dated people that were younger or older and what the general age difference was. So like, is it like 1 year older or like 5 years older or like 10 plus years, that kind of thing? So the average age, it was like most people that answered, it was around 21 to 22 year olds. Some like slightly older, like 30, 40 range. But the average age difference that people said was 2 to 5 years or 5+ years. So, I mean, not a like fat, like juicy age gap, but quite a, significant. It's there.
There were people who said, like a couple of people who said 20+ years.
Damn.
Not gonna call them out or anything. Yeah, but I don't know. What are your thoughts? What's your...
I think that's a little bit like what I expected. I think that is like what I've heard most of is around 5+ or like, I mean, I have heard a bit older actually. Yeah, maybe I think it should have been a bit older. But I guess the most common ones that you do hear about are around like 2-3 years, maybe like that kind of thing.
Or like
I feel like that's
up to 10 years difference.
Yeah, I feel like up to like 2 years is like acceptable. And, like...
Yeah. I mean, it's not really that big of a difference. Unless it's like 16 and 18.
Like another thing I will say before we like actually get in further into it is that this is like quite a tricky thing, like because there's so many like caveats or whatever. Like it's like if you're at 18 and 16 versus when you're 40 and 42, it's like that age gap really seems like really meaningless. But like 11 to 13, for instance, is like a little bit like, what? That's a bit weird.
There are legal issues as well at play.
11 to... Don't know why I went so young.
All those 11 and 13-year-olds dating.
Oh god.
But yeah, no. There are obviously legal issues at play here that we have to take into consideration. But aside from that, we wanted to just discuss, in the light of Taylor Swift and Jake Gyllenhaal. Yeah, I think it's important to notice like the emotional effects of things as well.
Yeah, for sure.
So yeah, obviously we're gonna get into that. Next thing we asked in the segment was, if you date people who are a different age from you, do you tend to go older or younger? And unsurprisingly, 89% of people said older and 11% of people said younger. I really don't know that many people who date younger than me, and we were just saying if we did, then we'd be a bit like, what's wrong with you?
Yeah.
Even on Hinge, even though it's legal, there are so many hot 18-year-olds that like slyly find their way onto my page. I'm like looking at their pictures and I'm like, oh, they're so hot, and I look at how old they are and they're 18 and I'm like, ew, that you just finished school, like that's weird.
I don't know, to me, I don't know.
If you were dating someone who was 18 and they were like doing their A-levels.
Oh no, okay, like someone that was in school, absolutely not.
Yeah.
If they're 18 and like in their first year of uni, like...
But like that's like 3 months difference between A-levels and first year of uni.
I know, but it's still different. Like, I feel like you're in a different stage now. Like, it's not like I'd have to be like, oh, when do you finish school? Like, what the fuck?
It is a different stage, but realistically, what has changed? Nothing.
I feel like a little bit.
Maybe like end of first year, but not.
Yeah, I guess I would rather they were like.
Anything.
Yeah, if they were like end of first year, fine. I don't know. I think it depends. Like, it does depend. That's why I think it's so hard. You know, for this question though, I was looking at the stats and I was like, I kind of thought that like it would be mostly guys that would be saying like I didn't think it would be so starkly older, to be honest, because I thought that the like guys would pull through and vote for the younger, but it wasn't.
Guys, pull through.
Not pull through. Sorry, that's not
younger people. Come on.
But I thought that was like the stereotype or whatever. So I was watching out, and like it wasn't even like fully all men. Like there were some women in there. It was like majority men, I would say, that voted younger, but there were a few women.
But I have dated people younger than me, but it's like a year or less than a year, you know.
Yeah.
Which is really the youngest I would go.
A year. Yeah, wait, maybe we should leave this at the beginning of the episode. We can go through like oldest and youngest we date and shag.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say, in terms of like the guys stereotype of dating younger, I don't know if this is just because we're in our 20s now, but there is kind of a thing of guys like being really into older women.
Yeah, no, I do think like our age group, it would be like guys dating older women as well, like because we are so young kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I do think that with age it does, you know, tend to.
That is something that really gets overlooked as well, like the dynamics of older women dating younger men, because when we talk about like grooming and stuff like that, you just only ever think about older men and younger women, which I guess is from like gender power imbalance anyway. But it's quite interesting anyway.
Then we asked, tell us about a time when you've really noticed the age difference in your relationship. And the first person said he constantly brought up that we were in different parts of life, and in brackets wife, kids, etc. Yeah, so like a very big point that we want to make, this whole like different stages of life. Like sometimes it's not necessarily age, it's just like stages of life. Like as I was saying, like with an 18-year-old who's like at school versus first year of uni, like I'd probably date someone that was first year of uni, whereas I'd never date someone that was still in school. Yeah. Even though, as you were pointing out, there's no real difference.
I guess you just have that in common. Like you have a shared experience.
Yeah, it's like stage of life, and I think that's like a huge reason why it just like age difference, dating with an age difference is like so hard and kind of a fucked thing in a way, because you are in different stages of life and like you understand different things about life and you have different priorities just innately, and if you don't, it's like fine, but like I'm not saying every 30-year-old has to have the same priorities, that's not what I'm saying, but like if your priorities are like the ones of like a 19-year-old, it's like,
what are you doing?
Sorry, mate. What are you doing?
I guess when you're like in your 30s, things, or like late 20s even, things start to get a little bit more evened out, because you will have been working for a few years anyway, and women will generally be starting to think about having children because of their biological clock, if they want children. And yeah, but men, I guess it's very different for men. Not to be super stereotypical in any way, but it's just kind of true. Also, like, if you're dating someone who's constantly saying that you're in different parts of life, why are they dating you then?
It's like, so you're spelling it out. You're spelling out what's wrong here.
Yeah, I don't. If it is an issue, then why are you dating me? Because I'm not about to change age. Like, I mean, I am in a year, but like, I'm not about to get like 10 years older.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Then the next thing people said was there was a period of time when I was 18 and dating all these 30-year-olds. Lol.
Yeah, all my friends have gone through that period. They're still going through that period.
Yeah.
Let me just say.
I mean, we'll get into it, I guess. What's the next one?
I was still in school and casually seeing a guy 10 years older. He'd be at work and it felt disparate. Very fancy way of putting it. So that little submission. But yeah, exactly like what we're saying, just like being at work and then you're at school and it's like, it's just a very different thing. Like, it's a very, I don't know, it's different, it's weird.
Even if you're dating someone who, like, if I was dating someone who was still at uni, like third year of uni, and now I'm working,
that's what I was about to say. That's what I was about to say, that even like me, like, I find it kind of weird sometimes that my like, I can't like kind of quite wrap my mind around the fact that like my boyfriend's still like at Bristol and like, you know, like he's still in that stage that I was like, not stage, but like he's still in that place that I was like a year ago, and like now that's over for me, and like he's still in it and I'm like doing something like new and something else, and it's like, I don't know, it's really weird. And like, not that I'm like, I was kind of like joking about it like to myself, because like now I'm a TA, so like I'm like a teacher kind of vibe, and like he's a student, and it's like just funny in my head, even though like it's not like I'm his teacher in any way, but like I'm a teacher and he's a student, and like I was like, ooh, scandalous. But yeah, I don't know, it is kind of strange. Yeah, like work versus like, and they're at school, even though it's uni, so it's different. It's
still just, I don't know, it's weird. But anyway, the next one is, at 15 I thought seeing a 21-year-old was cool, and now I get that it's just predatory. Yeah, I mean, we are going to get into this again, but I think when you're younger, it's so easy to think that like someone giving you all this attention is really cool, and you're like, oh, I must be so mature and special and all these things. But then now we're 21, and I think about if someone we knew was dating a 15-year-old, it's just, or like even older than us, was dating a 15-year-old. I just think it was, I mean, I know it's fucked up, basically.
Yeah.
But that doesn't even mean that now we're immune to that, because like it's not just something that goes away with age, like your ability to be groomed. And I guess it goes for like toxic relationships as well.
Yeah.
Like, people always saying, oh, you know, I'd never get into a toxic relationship, or I'd never get into a relationship like that because I'm too secure in myself. But like, actually, you're not any less vulnerable.
Yeah, like it can happen to anyone. Yeah. Okay. Next one. I wasn't allowed to talk about my friends to my ex because he would say he doesn't care to hear about people younger than him. Okay, then why are you dating me?
Yeah.
Like, that makes
I'm
no
younger
sense.
than you.
Like, that makes no sense. Like, sorry, am I just
so different,
magically older than them? Like, for while the time we're hanging out, but like, what?
It makes genuinely no sense.
Yeah, I hate that.
Also, that is something about dating people who are older than you, is like, they can't just date a part of you. Like, they have to accept that this is the stage of life that you're at.
Yeah.
You're surrounded by other people your age naturally, so you can't then be annoyed about that fact. And it comes down to power dynamic anyway in the end. Yeah.
And like, if your partner finds your life uninteresting and like your friends and stuff you have to say because it's like, oh, I'm too old and like mature for this. It's like,
they don't
that's
actually
not a good
care
thing.
about
like,
you. They're just trying to fulfill some sick fantasy that they have in their heads, or trying to make themselves feel some kind of way, like more powerful,
or not seeing you as a full person. And it's like, well, then, either of those things is just not.
That's not a relationship.
Not lit.
Yeah. Okay. The next one is, my ex is younger than me, and I really felt like his mum or something. I mean, I felt like that with people who are older than me. So.
Yeah, I felt like that with my same age boyfriend. I can imagine, like,
I don't think that's ever goes away.
Common, like, I do feel like that is a common problem for, like,
women.
Or like things that women think will happen if they date younger guys, and like not wanting to like mother them or anything like that, which like it's just not seen as much of an issue as like, or like as the thing as women like going out to find a father figure and like a guy to look after them and take care of them and all that shit in like a daddy issues kind of way, when like women a lot of the time do just end up taking care of their boyfriends, even if they're older, like younger than them and shit like that. And that's just seen as like a thing that happens.
It is literally just because women are seen as like, I need someone to protect me, I'm not like a complete human being, so that's why people think women go out and try and date older men. But I know so many guys who have daddy issues, like even worse daddy issues than women. So true. Like, why is that? I mean, I know why it's a thing, but it's just such a ridiculous double standard. The next one.
Okay, someone said wouldn't go younger as they were super immature when it comes to conflict. Yeah, maturity and...
I do think that about dating people younger, like an 18-year-old, for example. Because they are... like at school, the drama of school still exists within them, you know? So that would kind of be their response to things.
I do feel like from a woman dating a younger guy and the whole immaturity aspect, I feel like older men, when they date younger women, even though it is the thing of like, oh, women mature a lot younger and all of that shit, like, yeah, that might be true, but still it's like, you're still a 21-year-old and you are like, you're aware that when you're younger, like when you're 18 or whatever, you think that you know and you are very mature, but you are aware that like you are not, and like you have a lot to learn about yourself and a lot that you don't understand about relationships and all of that shit. Yet like to go for a younger girl knowing that is like, okay, so then you're like aware that you're taking advantage of someone. Yeah. Because it's like, you know that they don't know any better, because at that age, like, you didn't either.
Yeah, and you're not like a fully I mean, we're still not fully developed people, and your frontal lobe doesn't stop developing until you're 25. So I mean, you just can't be a complete person in that time. I mean, not complete, but you know what I mean. And then we have a couple more. Someone said, I'm 21 and was seeing a 34-year-old doctor with a kid. Again, stages of life kind of thing. I was dating someone who was 25 with a kid, so yeah. That was kind of wild.
Yeah, questionable decision. No, I'm joking. No shade. Okay, and last one. My friend lost his virginity to a 40-year-old woman when he was 21. Another older lady, younger man.
Older interesting. Lady. Old lady.
Older. I said older lady.
No. Okay, well, thanks for sending your
thank you guys.
Experiences. I feel like this is something as well that, unless you're dating someone with the literal same birthday as you, people have the potential to yield that like age difference to their advantage. You know what I mean? Because like I've been on a few dates with someone who's 21, but they're like a year below us at school. And it's like a joke, like, oh, you're so much older than me, even though we're the same age.
Yeah.
It depends on how one of the parties perceives it.
I do feel like that also will like grow out of that. I think it's more because we are like still quite young and like just got out of school, that like we still think of like, oh, year below and like year above. Whereas like I reckon in like 3-4 years, and like even people our age now like don't think about it that way, but like, you know, I think that will grow out of that. And it's like, to you, someone that was born in September versus like a few months earlier than that.
Yeah.
Like, it's not gonna make any difference.
Yeah, they're like literally the same age as one of our friends.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
like a week difference.
Yeah, no,
so
exactly.
it's really not that big of a deal. But actually, there's like a joke between us that they refer to me as their MILF. But apparently that's just because I had given MILF vibes.
Cool.
Anyway, moving on.
Should we get into the main episode? Okay, so should we start with saying the oldest and youngest that we would sleep with and also date? Because different. I think it's different answers for me personally.
Yeah.
And then we can say like who we like how old or young we actually have, like the experiences that we have had with an age difference. Okay, cool. So I think the youngest I would sleep with would be 18.
Okay.
I'd sleep with an 18-year-old, like, yeah. And then the oldest, probably like just a shag, probably like 42 or something, like 45.
Really?
Like a shag, yeah.
That was so unexpected.
I know. Like, I've changed my mind about that. Like, if it's just a shag, like, I'm down for it.
Yeah.
But it can't be anything, like, I'm not even saying, like, we just shagged once, like, but we have another kind of relationship. No, like, we're like just sleeping one time. Yeah, exactly. Okay. We're sleeping together one time. Yeah, like 40, I reckon I'd go for. And then to date, probably, like, 19 and 19, but like they'd have to be like, if they're in uni, they'd have to be like in second year.
Yeah. And
then if they're not in uni and just working, then it's fine, they can just be 19.
Yeah.
And oldest that day is like probably like 23.
Really?
24 maybe.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, 24. I think I'd date a 24-year-old.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
What about you?
Youngest I would sleep with, probably 19 as well.
Well,
I mean, no, 18. You said 18. Yeah, probably 19. Just because, like, when I'm on dating apps and I'm, like, looking at people, I never match with 19-year-olds. But if I met them in real life and they were in second year, maybe I would sleep with them.
Yeah.
But, like, that's a push. That's a push. 20 or 21, really. Yeah. And then oldest I would sleep with, 45. No older, like maybe 47. No older than 47. But like, again, that is a push. Because like before, I probably would have done that and older, maybe. But now I'm kind of like, if a 41-year-old like pops up to me on Hinge or whatever, I'm like, that's a bit weird, mate. Like, you're old.
Yeah, I just don't think it, like, that's the thing. I would never like seek it out. If like, okay, I think the oldest that I would like match with on no, but that's the thing, that's date, like, that's the thing, like, to seek out, I just honestly wouldn't date someone older than like 24 or 25. But like, if it just so happened that like one night at the club I just meet this like dashing grey fox, what do they call that? Silver fox. See, I don't even know the term. Like, and I just ended up going home with him, like, I would be fine. No, but then again, I'd have to know they don't have kids and shit. Like, I could not sleep with someone with a kid. That is so horrible to me.
Okay, well, yeah, youngest I would date, again, 20. Oldest I would date, probably like 28 at this point.
Fair enough. Like, I kind of get that.
Because I went on a date with a 27-year-old the other day, and he was like, he just felt like he was 21.
Yeah, no, that's true. That's true. I do feel like it can. This is another thing which I think we meant to get into later. I think that compared to a lot of 21-year-olds, I feel like I feel a lot more like a child. So to me, like, I wouldn't want to date someone that's like in my eyes, like really proper adult. So like if you really like have your shit together in a very adult way, even if you're like 23, like I feel like
you're incompatible.
Like my friend Theo, for instance, he is like an adult, like a proper adult. Like he has like real money and like pays real taxes and all of that shit.
Yeah, I feel like on paper he is, but like emotionally.
Yeah, no. And in a lot of ways he's not. That's what I'm saying. Like he's not obviously like fully a grown person, but like...
Sorry, no offense.
But like, I think it's just, to me, like I have to feel like you are the same amount of adult.
Yeah, you have to be like, on an equal
in a lot
plane.
of... Yeah, exactly. And like in all... Not in all... every single way. Like obviously you can be a little bit more like mature than me, but I think that I personally like I'm not one that's like attracted to someone that's like super mature or grown up. Like it's just not what I'm attracted to at all. Like
even like friend wise, I just think you shouldn't date people that you wouldn't be friends with, that you're not gonna like hang out with their friends as well. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like that's just kind of weird.
Yeah.
I would be friends with the 29-year-old, but would I be friends with the 30-year-old and all their 30-year-old friends? No.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Like,
that just sounds so much older.
Yeah, like some people at my work, like for instance, like the people that are married and stuff. Like, so like some teachers, it's like I will call them Miss because it's like to me they're like like a teacher. They're like married and like real adults and like have shit. Like, you know what I mean? But then there's other TAs that are like that I will just call by their first name because it's like. You can tell they are just more like, they're not married, they're like the same kind of stage that I'm in.
Yeah.
And I do think it's like, that is kind of to define it, like it's just the stage, like, are you married? And like, because I think there can be like 23-year-olds that are married and like having kids and all of that shit. So I would be like, yeah, that makes sense to me, like for you to be with someone that's older if that's what you want to be doing at 23. But it's like, that's not what I want to be doing, and that's just not like it's not within what I'm looking for in a person. Like I want someone that's like my best friend and like understands what I'm going through and shit, and I feel like I would struggle with feeling that in a non-patronizing way, because it's like they'll have the hindsight and like be able to teach me lessons about life and shit, but it's like I don't want that. Like I don't want a fucking dad, like, or like an older, like I don't want an older brother or whatever. I want you to like go through life with me. That's my personal view on it.
I agree.
I do understand like why some people do want it and like do want someone that's more mature and like will be able to teach them shit, and like I do get that, like being attracted to that and someone that's like smarter than you, but you
want it to be like a mutual thing as well, though. It shouldn't always just be one-sided, which I think is like the most important thing. Yeah. Really. But should we maybe move on to the actual the realities of our theories of who we would date / sleep with?
So like who
who we have actually dated and how old they are or slept with.
Let's spill the tea.
Let's fill everyone in.
Okay, go on. Go fast, please.
Okay, well, when I was 16, I dated someone in the year below.
Yeah.
And that's like the youngest below me that I've ever dated. Like, obviously now I wouldn't date someone
that was like that
age when we dated, but like, and now I would still only date like a year below me.
Yeah.
And the youngest person I've slept with.
Did you find that like notable at all, or like was it just kind of like?
Yeah, at some points, but it wasn't really that much of a difference, to be honest. And like, because we were still at school, it's like, it's still the same.
Yeah.
You've still only experienced the same thing up until that point.
Yeah.
But like with people that I've dated who are like 20 now, that feels kind of different. Like in some ways. Like I feel like there is just a slight edge to the maturity levels.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Which is kind of interesting, that like, because I think now we're just at a stage where we're changing so much. Like 6 months ago we graduated and like that was a whole different thing, and I was thinking earlier about how much I've changed in 6 months and how much I've learned in 6 months, and I feel like it's quite a lot. So anyway, then the oldest I've dated, well, as I said, I went on a date the other day with like a 27-year-old, and that's like dated. but that was like not a relationship, it was just a date.
Yeah.
But I kind of want to distinguish between, like, when I say date, I mean we just went on a date versus like I might have gone on a date with someone else, but it was just to like sleep with them. You get what I mean? So then the oldest that I've slept with, even though it was technically like a date, but we just slept together, was like 35.
And how old were you then?
19. Yeah.
Blimey.
And that was like, I didn't realise that they were 35.
Oh, really?
I thought they were like 30, but I didn't know they were 35.
How did you not know?
I think I just got it wrong. Like, I genuinely just got it wrong. But again, then that was also quite weird because I realised that they like had slept with people that were like other people who were 18. So I was like, is this your thing? That's a bit weird. But it was literally a one night stand, so it was like not threatening in any way.
And what, like, I don't know, do you have any memories, like anything like looking back or like versus how you felt at the time? Like at the time, did you think it was weird at all?
No, not really. It was
like you didn't deep it.
No, not
it
at
didn't
all.
even feel like
it didn't feel weird at all. Now it feels a tiny bit weird, but I'm still just like, because it was a one night stand, I don't really care.
Yeah.
You know.
What about
and then when I was 18 I dated someone who was like, I mean, I didn't date them.
I mean, kind of.
He was like 26, 27.
Yeah. And he and he used to like pick Honey up from the corner shop at school in his car and like drive her around places. One time he like brought us pizza and like gave Honey money for us to go clubbing.
Yeah.
That was weird.
That was
super weird.
Yeah, I don't feel good about that.
What, like, at the time, do you remember it being like weird at all that he was like older and like
I don't think that was the reason that it was weird. He was just a bit of a weird guy.
But like, was there not any red flags for you at all? Just it was just normal.
Yeah, I think I just liked that he gave me money and like that he drove me places. And also I felt like quite in control, to be honest, because like we didn't really spend that much time together.
Yeah.
Like we barely ever, if I look at the amount of times that we hung out, I could probably count it all on my fingers.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like weird. It wasn't like we were involved in each other's lives in any way. We just like had sex sometimes.
Yeah.
And like he would drive me places. Literally, that's all it was. Like it was, and I was like not even slightly emotionally invested in him.
Yeah, and I mean he clearly didn't think it was weird that you were in school and still like underage and shit, because well, not underage, you weren't underage, but like we were, like your friends were underage.
Yeah, and but like I don't think it was even a thing that he did often. Like this is what I mean, is that's why I don't feel terrible about it, because like I don't think he'd ever dated anyone else that was 18. It wasn't like this was his thing and he like sought out younger people, because it wasn't even like he knew how old I was when we met. Yeah, so I don't know, I didn't feel that weird about it at the time, but now I do feel like a bit weird about it, but mainly just because like I think the fact that like I didn't tell my mum about it at the time was
like you knew that
I knew that it was a bit weird. But also I don't even think it was because of the age. It's just because like I knew I was never going to introduce him to her or anything like that, and just because I didn't really like him that much. It was just like convenient.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. Okay, so what about you?
I have like the two people I've been in a like proper, like anyone that I've been in a like any sort of thing with has been like my age. Like genuinely, oh my god, like actually. But one time I did sleep with this guy who I thought, so I was 18 at the time and I thought he was like 20, like 22, 21, because that's what he had told me, and I was like, oh okay, that's cool, because like I've been like you know, since we were like 16 or whatever, like our friends, like people in our friend group have dated older guys, like just older, and like I have always been of the opinion of like, nah, like I'm just really not into older guys, like I just thought it was like weird, I like just wasn't into it. So like I had a very strict, like even, you know, when I was 18 I was like, nah, like I wouldn't go for anyone older than like 21 probably. So I was like, yeah, whatever. And then after like we'd slept together, we were just like talking, and I don't even know how it came up, and I was like, I think I said something like, oh, but like you're like 22, aren't you, or something like that, and he was like, oh no, like I'm 26, and I was like,
oh,
what?
That's quite a big difference.
Yeah, like after we'd like, and I wouldn't have slept with him if I knew he was 26 before. Like, I mean, like, it's fine. I'm not scarred from it. Like, I don't even think about it very often at all. It's like I don't really care, and like it didn't really change it. Like, for me, as in like whether he was 26 or 22, like I couldn't even tell. If he didn't tell me, like I wouldn't have never known.
Yeah.
So it's like that makes me feel a little bit more okay about it, because it's like he was in such a like 22 kind of stage of life, or like at least that's like I fully believed it. If he wouldn't have told me, I would never have known. So like that's why I don't feel like that weird about it. But like if I had like gotten there and everything was like a really different vibe, you know what I mean? Like maybe I would have like clocked and been like uncomfortable before, but I don't know. I just think that was so fucking weird to lie about it, and like,
and then to admit it later, it was, as if like,
yeah, I don't know. I guess like people do it all the time, because this is another thing I wanted to bring up, that like when you're 16 and like, or 15 or however old, but like you just start getting into, you're like really young still, a kid, and like you start getting into the world of like dating and relationships and stuff, and it's like when like people start getting fake IDs and going to the pub and stuff like that, and like things that you're not legally allowed to be doing in places that you're not legally allowed to be because you're too young. And then like people in our school, like when we were like even 14, 15, like we're like going to bars and stuff and flirting with like 30-year-old men.
Yeah, that's true.
And like, but in those instances, it's not like you're telling these people, oh, I'm 14, and they're just being super creepy. Like in a lot of these instances, you are like lying and saying that you are 18.
Yeah, exactly.
Which like, still like, I mean,
still,
there is a bit of a like, I think a lot of the time they
18.
don't, because so many like kids like a lot older these days. Yeah. And I'm that's not to blame anyone in this equation.
Yeah.
But as in like, I do think that like a lot of the times, as you said, like they do fucking know, and it's like I'm sorry, even if like this like
even
you're
if they
attracted
were
to them
18,
because they look because they look like a kid. Like I don't know, it's just a little bit like I do. Anyway, the reason I was saying it is like that is kind of tricky as well, because it's like you can tell like the. Like it is like obviously gross and horrible, and the omen should be on like, oh, like to the older men, like you shouldn't be like preying on these younger kids. But then again, like how do you convince the girls to also like not go for like these weird men, even though you can't?
Like in my situation, like, I was 18, like it was so legal, and I don't think it was predatory. I really genuinely don't. But to me, it was just like I feel older, and like this just makes logical sense, versus now looking at myself when I was 18, and even just like how I feel now as a 21-year-old. I'm like, well, I don't think like that's a valid reason to go after someone who's older, and I don't think it was the right thought.
But like there are so many like even I did it, you know, when I like 17, 16, like go on Tinder and like lie about your age.
Yeah. But yeah, so okay, well, so maybe we should get into like why. I mean, I think we've covered why older men want to date younger women. It's predatory. They want to feel in control. They know that women their age don't want to date them because they're fucking creepy. And they also know that women their age probably know how to say no to them and can like speak for themselves, versus these younger girls can't, probably. Legally, they can't. Biologically, their minds aren't like fully developed. Yeah. So it's just fully taking advantage of them and like what their premonition of the situation is and their perceptions of themselves. But should we talk about like why younger people date older people?
Yeah.
Okay, so as I said, like I thought it was just like quite convenient that like he had a car and he could drive me to places. Like it was quite nice. But then I think there's also the side of like daddy issues or whatever, and this is something that is quite a focal point in the conversation around like dating at different ages, because people are like, oh, she has daddy issues, so she's dating all these older men. And like, I think when we were younger, when we were like 16, 17, 18, a lot of our friends were dating people who were older, and we didn't think it was weird at all. I mean, we did at some point. We thought like there was a switching point, but it was kind of like, oh, what is this person, like, what is our friend thinking by dating this older person? And then we put it down to like daddy issues, versus like thinking that the person who was older was fucked up. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, but I mean, I think I've always thought about it that way, because I feel like I've always thought that, how it was just fucked up and it's just weird, and it's like, even if like, because this friend also, it's like she has always had this aura of like, I'm so mature, like I'm old for my age, that kind of vibe, and I just thought it was like fucking weird and creepy, and I always said it from the start. I remember the first time she ever said something, I was like, oh, do you not like think it's a bit creepy, like when you're like 30 and stuff, like don't you think that like you'll look back and be like, that's so fucked up?
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I do think I do completely see what you are saying, that it is like so much of the conversation is like more put on like the girl with the daddy issues, and like the kind of phase that like all girls go through of like dating the older men, and like there's just not that much of a conversation of like, oh shit, yeah, that was actually really fucked up, that like this 30-year-old man was like grooming me when I was 16 and then finally asked me out when I was like 20 and or whatever, and like yeah, I do completely agree with you.
Yeah, and then also I think looking at how we were when we were 16, like we were so insecure, all of us, even if we thought we were like really mature. Even now, like I think I'm quite mature, but like I still know that I don't know so much stuff. Like I still feel like a baby so much of the time. Probably feel even more like a baby now than I did when I was 16, because at the time you don't realize how much you don't know, because you're in such a bubble of life of like you don't have to do anything for yourself realistically, and if you do, then it's like that impacts as well, like daddy issues or whatever. You're seeking something that you don't have in your life already, which is like, it's like unfortunate, but also it's so common that like to say it's unfortunate, I think minimizes the problem. Yeah, because I think saying it's unfortunate makes it seem like this is something that like not many teenagers go through, or like younger girls go through, of like, oh, it's just the ones with daddy issues that seek it out. But it's not. It's like people just in general who are insecure and want some kind of validation, and that's why I'm saying like we're not even immune to it at this age.
Yeah, no, for sure. Like I constantly am thinking of like how silly I like when in retrospect, like when I'll look back at me at 21 and like how silly and immature I actually was, and all of the things that I like wholeheartedly thought to be true about like love and relationships especially, and like because like and like I hope that that's the case, but it's like that's why like to me dating someone older is like, it's too scary. It's like they know these truths, yet they're like still choosing to be with someone who doesn't, and it's like there's something slightly suspicious to me about that. It's like it's just unequal from the start, because it's like, yeah, if you date someone that's your age, that's a lot smarter than you, but like still has only had the opportunities to experience like the same amount of life as you, and like discover the same amount of truth, you know what I mean? Even if they're like a lot more advanced in that truth or whatever. But it's like at least they're an equal opportunity playing field in terms of like life experience, whereas someone who's not, it's like they're like trying to rob you. Like it's kind of like they're trying to cheat in a way. It's like they're trying to take a shortcut and like to basically indoctrinate someone to do it their way. And then like with our friend who was like dating older guys and stuff, like a lot of the like problems that kind of always kept happening, like it was always this thing of like, even though it came across as like from her choice as well, it was like this relationship will never advance past casual sex because of the age difference essentially. And it seemed like when she was telling us like it was like because of both of their choice, like they were both choosing that this was the way it was going to be. But to me, like now, seems like she was like yearning always for this, like for more. It was always like a problem. Like it was always like, I'm so hopelessly in love with him, but he's so much older, like but it will never work because of this. But it's like he
had
like,
the power
to me
in that
scenario, like it's his fault to do that, even though they both walked into it and agreed with it, knowing what the truth was and what the reality was, and in that there was an age gap. It's like she didn't know any better. Like she didn't know any better in terms of what it's like to just meet someone and fall in love and like all of that kind of shit. Whereas like he did, and he was like, and she was a kid,
and he was enabling it. He was fully enabling it.
Yeah,
like if you don't want these things, shut it down, don't enable it. But you clearly get some kind of kick out of the situation to even be entertaining it in the first place.
And because he was older, like even if they both came to this decision, she would have just done whatever he said because she thought that he was in the right because he's the older guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean? Like, so
he knows what he's talking about.
Even if that's not the truth, like even if in that scenario, like her instinct was a lot better than his, even with all this life experience, even with all of this shit. Like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Because of the like power dynamic of like he's older, knows more. It's like it's gonna go his way, and like a lot of the time, it will just happen that way. Like, like they will just have control in the relationship because they're older and have more experience and know what they're doing. Yeah. And it's like that's not necessarily the case. You are the expert on you and like what's best for you, not someone else just because they're older than you.
Yeah. And I think again, when we were younger, it was like so easy to romanticize all these things, especially because like when you're a 16-year-old girl, 16-year-old guys are like fucking annoying as fuck, and they're so immature. Even now, like dating a fucking 27-year-old, I'm like, how are you 27?
Your ex.
Yeah, my like, even though, and that was another thing as well, even though the age difference with my ex was like not even that big, like they were 23 when we started dating, I was 19, still like quite like 4 years, but still not that big. They would say stuff like that to me, like, oh, but you're so young, like I've had more relationships, I understand these things better. And I was like, well, no, like, even though you think that of yourself, you're still fucking immature. Like I feel like we were on the same plane of maturity, if not like I was more mature than him. And that kind of like convinced me that dating someone older is just like I think that's genuinely why I won't date someone older now, because I just don't think, if we're in such different stages of lives and like if you're going to use that as like reason to belittle me and like condescend me, I don't want to stand for that shit. Fuck that. And it's so fucked up.
I don't know, in my eyes, if age really isn't an issue, then why are you bringing it up? Like, that's how I see it. It's just like, if you feel the need to bring it up, then it clearly is a thing. And it's like, I'm really not interested in like someone belittling me or feeling like lesser than. I feel like I'm already like so insecure, and I feel like I already put people on such a pedestal that I think in a way it has always been like a thing to protect myself as well, because it's like, I know that I wouldn't be able to stand up for myself. Like why put yourself in the situation of like someone like that someone is facilitated to take advantage of you in a way. Not that it's anyone's fault a lot of the time. Like obviously I know these situations.
They feel like as if you're facilitating them by even being there in the first place.
Yeah.
Okay, so what do you think? Is there a situation where it's ever okay to date someone older or younger? Like, what point does it become acceptable?
Yeah, I mean, that is, I think we've been like hinting at it a bit, like the whole phases of life thing. Like, I think, for instance, now I feel like age differences and age gaps are like a little bit more prominent or whatever. Like someone that's 26 versus us could be in a different stage, could still be like in, you know, it's like, it's a bit of a toss up. Like there's some people that are, I would say, are like very same phase, but some people that are like, they're like kind of on a different thing, that like they're on to the next thing. Whereas like, for instance, like when you're like 41 versus someone that's 46, like
yeah,
I don't know if like that's gonna be like that huge of a difference or whatever. So it's like the same age gap, just different age. Like that is obviously a huge factor. And I do feel like once you're like a proper, like once you reach like the maturity and adulthood threshold, which like I wouldn't be able to tell you when that is, or like, because I think it's also different for everyone. I think it's like when you, it's just about like what your, for me it's just like about what your priorities are in that moment in life, and like what you want to get out of life, what you want to get out of a relationship. I do think that there could be a 19-year-old out there that could be like very well matched up with a 31-year-old, and like they honestly like are well suited, and they are in a similar life stage for some reason, you know. Like I do think that that's a possibility for sure.
I would have a lot of questions.
Yeah, but I do think that that's definitely like a thing. I'd be like, I'm a lot more comfortable talking about it with like some like people that have passed the age of like 25 realistically, or like that kind of thing, because I feel like a lot less imbalances can kind of like perk up or whatever.
I don't know. I think up until 30, you should be in the same decade to be dating. So like,
yeah, but then like what about like a 19-year-old dating a 16-year-old?
Well, they're in the same decade.
Yeah, but so do you think that's fine?
Like, but that's like issues of legality. That's a different thing.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, but like that's what
then
I'm saying.
What you think, like a 16-year-old with like a 13-year-old?
No, but like when does that happen? And that's also an issue of legality.
Oh yeah, sorry.
So what I'm saying is like a 21-year-old can date like a 29-year-old, and that's fine. And like,
but then what,
a 34-year-old can date like a 24-year-old, and that's maybe fine.
I see. Yeah,
but
okay.
Like,
that's an okay. What about 14 and
40.
24?
No, but Maria, when does that happen? Like
it does.
Yeah, but again, it's a legal issue.
Okay, fine. Okay.
Just stop trying to catch my rule out.
Well, no, I'm trying to test it to see if this is like a good rule to send out.
After this whole conversation, we have to acknowledge the fact that even though we're saying like all these things are so fucked up, obviously it's still gonna keep happening. And like you were saying, it's like anything, when you're 16, if someone tells you don't do it, you're probably still gonna do it.
Yeah.
Regardless of what advice people give to you. So like, what can we actually say to people who are in this situation to make them, like, if it does happen, how can they, you know, like, how can they get out of it? And it was not gonna happen, like, make sure it still doesn't happen.
Yeah. Or like just ensure, or I guess things to just ensure that, like, fine, if you are gonna date an older guy, maybe just avoid these things. Like, if someone doesn't want to talk about your life or like your friends, like, fine, if you're dating someone older but they're still interested in your friends and your life, like, I'd see that as a good sign. Like, I'm not saying, oh, okay, go for it then or whatever, but I do feel like there are things that maybe you can just watch out for that like happen a lot with older guys, that maybe then don't go for, like, if you're still gonna do it, then just don't go for those ones, you know? Like, if your plans kind of start being just hanging out with them, and like if every time you see them it's like very private, like no one can know, that kind of thing, I think, like, yeah, red flag. If no one can know, like, if you're like, oh, like, I'm dating someone older and like it's so exciting and like you feel so like chosen or whatever, and then it starts being like, oh, nobody can like find out about this, it's like, that's for a reason, that's like for a reason. And I think, like, if that's the case, then like
get out.
Definitely do tell
like, someone.
Like, fine if you don't want to tell like your parents or like someone older, or like you don't want to like snitch on yourself essentially, but like make sure that someone knows about what's going on. Like, if you're gonna choose to date older people, like, don't keep it a completely secret. Like, have one friend you tell about it, like one non-judgy friend, because if something ever is to happen or something goes wrong, at least you know that there's someone out there that knows about it. What else? What else? Or like
they're bringing up the fact that there's an age difference and that you're so much more immature than they are all the time, that's like, well, they clearly know that. Why are they dating you then? Like,
yeah, and if someone does use that as like a thing, reassure yourself and being like, well, if I was like, if I really truly was really immature and they truly knew better and all of this, like, they wouldn't be dating me. Like, that isn't the truth. Like, back yourself and your maturity level, like, in those moments as well, because if they use it to weaponize, like, if they weaponize it and all of that shit, then, like, just reassure yourself that it's like, that isn't the case. I am smart and capable and, like, I can, like, I'm as much of a human as you.
Yeah, and, like, trust your instincts. If something feels weird, it probably is weird.
Yeah.
If it feels wrong, just don't do it. Just don't go there. And I think that's just like general advice for all dating situations. And yeah, I think sex education is, for the millionth time, is terrible. And we don't talk enough about like the emotional impacts of things. We just tell people like, don't do this, don't date older people, it's illegal. Like, don't send nudes if you're under 18 or whatever. But it's like, we don't actually talk about what it's gonna look like.
Yeah.
And how you're gonna feel if you're in that situation. So hopefully we've kind of explained a little bit of like, not necessarily our own feelings and experiences, but like from our perspective at the stage of life we're at now, why it's fucked up for someone older to pursue someone younger.
And I mean, I do understand it, like, I really do fully understand it, because I think a lot of people our age or like younger and stuff, like, people can be really immature and like really shallow and all of these things because they just haven't like learned better or whatever. So I do understand like wanting to go for someone that's like not shallow and not immature and like gonna see you for who you are and all of these things that, like, I feel like that is why younger women, like younger girls, do go for older guys. Like, I do get that, and someone that has more experience.
But like, also it's okay to be young and to just live in at the age you are. Like,
yeah,
you don't have to be trying to be older than you are. Like, now we're 21, I'm kind of like, I definitely don't want to be any older than I am, or like try to be at a different stage of life, because I'm just trying to figure stuff out. And I wish that like at 16, I think I did know that, but I wish that like everyone at 16 would know that and not be trying to like grow up faster.
But that's my take. I just personally, not my personal taste. Maybe we should have someone on to like advocate for dating older men one day. I want to see the other side.
Maybe like sugar baby kind of situ.
Yeah.
Or we could also talk for ages about older women dating younger men and like the technicalities of that.
There's this show called I think it's The Teacher or A Teacher, but I think it's on Amazon Prime. But it's like about a teacher that dates a student, but it's like a female teacher. So it's like interesting, you know, like as in like it makes you think, because like it doesn't seem, and like that is like the narrative, that it's like if a woman's doing it, it's like not as predatory, and it's like, oh, good for you, like that kind of thing. Like, he obviously like really wanted to, which isn't true. Like, no, but watch that show. It kind of makes you see. Because I do think that it definitely does happen, and I think because like men have this expectation of like, oh, good for you, and like that kind of shit, and like wanting to have a lot of sex and all of these things, whereas like sex is something that like seems to happen to women, whereas like men seem to like do it.
Yeah, that's true. We always talk about how women are affected by things because we are women, obviously, but like we do have loads of episodes that we want to do from like male perspective. We just can't speak for that perspective, so like we want to do episodes on how the patriarchy affects men's sex lives in general. So if you want to provide that perspective, please let us know and send your stories to us.
And you can send that at Sextress Podcast on Instagram or on Facebook. We're also Sextress Podcast. Our website is www.sextresspodcast.com. Our YouTube is Sextress Podcast. everything is Sextras Podcast, essentially.
Subscribe.
Definitely subscribe, leave us a review. And yeah, we can't wait to see you next week.
Yeah.
Bye.
You've been listening to Sextras, presented by Honey Jane Wyatt and Maria Jose Hayodatiyi. Produced by Mabel Productions.